well, maybe. So, hi folks, welcome to the first of 4 sessions of Power Power Beyond Doubt. This is a game in alpha. It's available by supporting its author Alicat on Patreon. It is a spiritual successor to Masks, where Alicat decided that what she wanted at this point was to sort of create something that had all of the things that I truly love about Masks, but sometimes it's quite cool to play grown-up heroes. We've got different sort of problems, okay? So if you've played Masks, this will probably be your thing. The challenge I have probably for a lot of these players who have played a lot of Masks is it's close enough to Masks that we have to unlearn some behaviors and focus on the new ones. Okay, so we're going to build up our characters, and we're going to go through the playbooks and how this works in a moment. There are 10 playbooks in this game. They're all derived archetypes of people that you might expect to see in a Justice League or an Avengers or an X-Men movie. You want to play Wolverine? He's here. Captain America? No problem. Green Lantern? It's all okay. You can even play Superman, but not Batman because he's like a 1%er and we don't like him. So we'll be exploring and setting up our characters today. We'll be going through this. We'll be introducing the characters into play, and especially there are a number of different moving parts in the game, and what I want to do is introduce very much the consideration here today of one of the character things which I think is really cool in the game called touchstones. So we'll be sort of filling and building our world. So I'm going to ask the players to have a look. Some of them have already had a chance and have chosen the playbooks they want to play. Others have not, especially one of the players has joined us at very short notice, the lovely Alan, which I'm very glad of. Okay, we are playing on the gauntlets. We are using the gauntlets inclusivity policy. We are using lines and veils, which we have set up off camera, and we're using the X card and script change. We'll be closing down with stars and wishes and a little bit of a thorn, which is to sort of review the rules and think what we thought of them. I'll be trying to pull a different piece out each time we play. So let's go round, and let's go with the people I know have thought about what characters and playbooks they want to play to begin with. I'm going to start with David. So David, if you can introduce yourself, and can you tell us about the playbook that you've chosen so far?
Yes, certainly. My name is David. I use he, him pronouns. I'm looking forward to playing this game. It seems quite fun. I've played a lot of Masks over the last couple of years playing with the Gauntlet, and I am looking forward to giving this a go. I will also attempt not to call it Project Lycra at any point, but there's a very good chance I will. So yeah, the playbook I have chosen to play this time around is the Pledge Bearer. I believe, and I could be wrong on this, I don't have the broadest comics knowledge, I will admit, but I think this is kind of a Green Lantern-y type character, but also kind of Thor, I guess.
In Marvel, you would be Nova. You would be a member of the Nova Corps.
Yeah. But yeah, basically, I have great powers granted to me by a sacred artifact. Well, I say sacred, an artifact, and I have sworn an oath to uphold whilst I wield it. If I break the oath that I have sworn, I lose all of my powers. Likewise, if I lose my artifact. And yeah, that's kind of what the Pledge Bearer does, as I can discern it so far.
Cool. Unlike movie Green Lantern, you're going to wear your own costume, and it won't be CGI'd on in the end. It's going to be awesome. And Donna, if you'd like to introduce yourself on the playbook you've chosen.
Yeah, hi, my name is Donna. My pronouns are he, him. And yeah, I've played a good bit of Masks, both with the Gauntlet and with my home group. So yeah, excited to see some grown-up action with superheroes tonight. I'm going to be playing the Tarnished, who is, I guess, someone who has, sailed a bit too close to the wind in terms of where their power comes from. Nothing set in stone yet, but someone with powerful and sneaky abilities. I think I'm looking at magical blast and mastery of spirits, ghosts, and demons as those. Someone definitely from the wrong side of the tracks in terms of their heritage. So yeah, hopefully
You're John
you'll figure
Constantine,
out.
brother.
Yeah.
Total John
Yeah.
Constantine, yeah. Or at least like Legends of
I mean,
Tomorrow, John Constantine, yeah.
though I'm not allowed to be a Vertigo character in a Marvel Universe picture. Yeah. We'll see how that goes.
Cool. Awesome. We can play whatever we want. It's all good. The number of
there's Justice League Dark. That's a thing.
yeah, the number of people, because you can't get John Constantine because he's just too expensive in a lot of things. You have someone who's just a little bit like John Constantine. Is incredible. I refer you to the Doom Patrol TV series if you've not watched it. Okay, third, Jim, have you made a choice yet?
So I've thought about it, but in keeping with that, I generally try to choose last after everyone else has chosen, because I like there's half a dozen of them that I could do and have a lot of fun with. I'm gonna defer to Alan if you have a preference, like a strong choice or two that you would.
Yeah, no, I'm keen on the changed. To be honest, because I'm coming to this kind of really cold, I need a quick character concept to latch onto. So the last mask character I played was one of those kind of vaguely changed creatures. So I think I'm going to put him in a different universe, a different time.
Alan Smash. So we got our Hulk out here. So Alan's going to be, dealing with the changed. Both Jim and Alan have not started starting the sheets yet, so that will allow me to go through some of the ways that these our rules work. So Jim, does that make, my friend, your life any easier?
Yeah, it sure does. So I'm going to look back to another character that I played as a masked character. In fact, I think with at least one or two of the people that we are here with today, and I will play an architect.
So the architect tries to build a better future, and they ain't Tony Stark or nothing.
No. She's been doing this since she was a teenager.
Excellent, cool. So as I say, we've those are our playbooks created. So let's just go through the character creation. If you've played Power of the Apocalypse, this is a PBTA based game. Are pretty straightforward. There are 4 stats: daring, power, genius, and humanity. Okay, and moves attached to them. You've got your starting block, but you've got +1 you can add to one of your core stat blocks to begin with. Your team starts at 2, and your confidence and trust start at 0. Okay, now, again, confidence and trust, if you're coming from a mass one, confidence and trust are the ones that tend to bounce up and down like yo-yos in this game, whilst your core strengths are not so much. Okay, and again, what you're doing, because we're probably all very used to master moving your labels, so you're moving 2 at a time, you're only moving 1. So it's likely it'll say your confidence might move, your trust might move, you might have a choice, it might tell you what to do, but that's stat that tends to move. Okay, it will tell you how many moves you get to do. Some of you will have a core move you've got to take, like the architect has to have the suit. And then you get to choose your others. Okay, then we'll be moving on to do your backstory, which we'll go through and we'll stripe around the table building our characters in our city against the cats that we've set up. Then we're going to do the touchstones. Then we're going to do the relationships. Okay. Some of you have got extra things as well, like looking at the architect. We've got to have a personal assistant who is going to help our architect and be their equivalent to Happy or Pepper Potts, I suppose. Okay, so let's set those into our sheets at the moment.
Go changed, go simple.
So folks, we have built up our 4 playbooks. I say Jim is playing the architect, Alan is playing the changed, David the pledge bearer, and Donna the tarnished. So we're going to go through now, and I'd just like if you want to sort of give us a brief introduction to your character, and then we're going to go through in keyboard order, and we're going to set up the background questions for each character. Okay, so as we're doing this, if anyone wants to ask any clarification questions or say, wouldn't it be awesome if to one of the other players, then say that, because we can tell better stories together. So
can I ask a real quick question before we get started? How did you guys get it so that you've got two pictures there? Did you just split the cells and then redo them? Is that okay? Cool. All right. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Because I really like that. The one for your civilian ID, one for your hero ID is cool.
I've never seen that. I'm stealing that for all superhero games from this point onwards.
Yeah,
I did mine originally for a close-up, but I think I'll just switch to what you've done, Alan, for that as well.
It's awesome. Okay, so Jim, you're playing the architect, which
I am.
If you're thinking about this as superhero archetype, is very close to the wonderful Tony Stark and Iron Man, among others. So introduce us to Hardsuit.
So I am playing, like I said, a variation on a character that I played in a Masks game that I think that Leandro ran, that we played in. So, but Hardsuit is she is the architect. She has a straight up bubblegum crisis anime like cool chick, mecha armor suit that is like form fitting and all that kind of stuff, and hides her identity when the mask is down and everything. I am the only child of a Japanese billionaire who I'm sure owns the biggest of what electronics company in whatever our world is, and but it's always been. I think there's a thing where it's presumed that I would not take over the company, and so but I had free run of the place. So as a little kid, I was in the labs with his engineers, just kind of tinkering and poking my nose into their projects and stuff like that, and sort of put this suit together myself out of bits and pieces of things that they had, other projects that they were working on. And first went out as a teenager and have gradually gotten better at it and all this kind of stuff. And so, at this point, I'm a full-blown, no kidding, public identity. Everybody knows who I am. Armor-wearing superhero.
Awesome. So I think that answers some of the questions for your backstory, because just like Masks, we have 5 backstory questions. The last one for everyone is, why do you care about the team? I like to do that last once we've gone round the table,
Sure.
everyone, right? Just so we can loop back on it. So I think we have answered, but when did your genius really start to get noticed, or as we've said, did it not? Were you just sort of pack ratting stuff away from the R&D department?
So I think this is a thing where I was a Mozart-style child prodigy.
Yeah.
With so the two areas of genius that I have, my expertise, I chose engineering and biology. In that I envision this as being a lot of stuff jacked right into my nervous system, and I've got nanotech, my lymph nodes can have nanotech coming out of them and stuff like this. So this is very much a I am probably people would probably be scared if they knew how much of a cyborg I actually am in order to make this suit work. It's not just a suit of armor that you pull on and anybody could wear it. I have ports all over my, I have ports down my spine and stuff like this, and all that kind of stuff. So but I think this is the engineers at my father's company noticed when I was 9 or 10 years old that I was coming in and asking the kinds of questions that their interns were asking them. And just, you know, and I think it was a thing where like they were amused and impressed. And because nobody was allowed to say no to me, because I was the, you know, the chairman's daughter, I ended up just like, they basically like just gave me a lab of my own so that I would stay out of their hair.
How did your dad feel about this, or was your father not present enough?
Oh no, he was like he was constantly in meetings and jet setting around the world and, you know, all this kind of stuff and everything. And as long as I stayed out of trouble, that was, you know, he was fine with that.
Awesome. Okay. So what made you turn to superheroing?
I think that I like this has got to be the, you know, the like some kind of industrial saboteur caused a, you know, some kind of like a major accident at one of the factories that was a distraction for them stealing some of our technological secrets, like some of our patents or something like that. And while everybody rushed off to deal with that, I was still in the lab tinkering. And this, you know, this saboteur came busting in, and I just grabbed what was there. You know, no one can see it's me. I pulled the helmet on, and then I took him out. And I was like surprised at how easy it was and how fun it was. And the amount of attention that I got for it was intoxicating at like 15 years old.
Awesome. So this is a mass character pivoting into power beyond doubt.
Yeah,
so why have you stayed? Why have you stayed in the game? Why did you go on? Because effectively you are playing a paragon of the city, right? Why did you stay superheroing?
Because I like at this point there's nothing else that is remotely interesting to me. This is the only thing that, you know, that I get any kind of, like, I'm rich enough that I can do whatever I want. So that means that like that stuff's all boring. And if I walk around in my civilian identity, you know, I've got like, you know, there will be bodyguards protecting me and people keeping the press away from me and all this kind of stuff and everything, you know, and I, you know, and also like, this is a lot of the tech that I develop only works on me right now. So the only way to test it, right, is to get out into the field.
Awesome. That might feed into your next question, which is like, what's the greatest puzzle, adventure, and discovery have you yet to solve?
Oh, it is absolutely to beat death. Like I've been hurt in ways that absolutely would kill other people, but I have managed to like make my body into a thing that can, like, the thing that I took for my suit, one of the powers that I took for my suit is that it's self-repairing. And I take that to mean that also, like, you know, like I can regenerate from some pretty nasty stuff. But I'm angry, maybe not angry. I consider it like a significant challenge that I seem to still be aging. And that's, you know, I mean, like, whatever, if you toss me into the sun, that converts me entirely to energy and I'm gone. That's fine. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, like it is ridiculous that, you know, I can go and look at, you know, machines that have existed for centuries and longer, and that we can create machines that do that. And we're just on the verge of creating self-repairing machines. but that our bodies don't last. Our bodies, which are really just machines, don't last any longer than they ever did. That's completely insane, and an engineer. It's just an engineering problem, and one we should be able to fix, and that we could if we really put our minds to it.
Better coding, right?
Yeah.
And here on Golden Bay City, where aliens crash landed and the threshold gate is, we're better to find the cutting edge of science, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely cool. So, but last question for you at the moment: who outside of the team is a threat or a peer to your industry?
Are we making up names here, or are we just? What do you think?
You can make up. I'm looking for someone who's your your the first Iron Man film gone on my head. But you're looking for your rival, right? Someone who
So I think that is Backup LLC, and that's like BAKUP, so that they can trademark that name, right? Backup.
Mm-hmm.
And they are working on cloning. That's their answer to living forever, which is idiotic. There's so many problems with cloning, like just starting with the ethics of it and going into the replication crisis problem and all of that, it's, but people keep giving them money. So
cool. That's there's always people who can that sounds cool. I'll think more about them. I love me a super science
and
villain.
it's run by a couple of twin brothers, and like that's their shtick, is that it's like, they like to kind of foment doubt about whether they're really twins or clones of each other or something like that. So
are we twins or are we clones?
Yeah, it's tedious.
Or are they dancers?
Yeah.
Awesome. Right. That sounds amazing. Let's go and meet our change played by Alan. So give me a brief introduction of the character again, Alan, and then we'll go into your background stories.
Okay, so Freak is an intelligent nanoswarm that can adopt the form of his previous human existence, one Michael Manners. He can transmute, so he can do stuff with that nanoswarm. So he has a number of different looks, so he can emulate a human. He tends to dress very formally because that's much easier to maintain. So a young man in a business suit is much easier than somebody with spiky hair. I guess then the next stage on the transformation is approximates a Silver Surfer, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But when he goes full Freak, he can release that nanoswarm into all manner of spiky protrusions and extensions. And those extensions are what he uses for his techno-assimilation power, which is that, connect to technology using nanites that, extend from a finger or a tail or whatever.
Cool. So the architect's question is all about the suit, which we heard about, but the changed is one of the questions you've got to answer is who or what was responsible for your change and our sad, incredible Hulk music.
This happened when I was about 12, 13. An industrial accident when my mother, Dr. Jane Manners, was killed on a Take Your Child to Work day that resulted in my transformation. That, though, is in a different world, a parallel universe, where as a young man, I sacrificed myself and then found myself here.
Into the multiverse. Dun, dun, dun. So I got my first crossover from Gauntlet City.
Well, technically from Prospect City.
Prospect City. We need
Shout out to Leandro.
We need to cross back over and give those guys a kicking. So the accident caused your body to be transformed? Is that correct?
I mean, whether the accident caused the body of Michael Manners to be entirely destroyed and his consciousness to be captured by the nanites his mother was working on, or whether his body has been transformed into nanites is an open question.
That is a very good question. I'm playing a gay character that got almost that same question in Ferret's mass game on a Friday night, and he answered that question for me, and my jaw hit the ground. Good fun. But so who were you? I think we established that before the channel happened. So who outside of the team has helped you to cope with your new life in this new multiverse?
I think my wife, whose name has now left me. I am a young man in mid to late 20s.
Sorry, your character's wife's name has left you, right? Sorry, okay.
Yes, could we just stop recording and just
scrub
redo
this.
that bit? Yeah. No, I need to avoid any bleed. Let us call her Marie.
So make sure I understand this for Freaky, right? Was Marie also your wife in the other place, or is she just your wife here?
She's just my wife here. I left the other place when I was about 14, going on 15.
So you've been here for some time.
About a decade, 12 years ish.
Met a girl, fell in love. So what else does tell me a little bit more about Marie. Other than
she's a journalist.
Oh, we love you, journalist. Her editor is undoubtedly angry and shouty, whether they're Cat Grant or Jay Jonah. Okay. And does she know about your double life?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it takes positive effort to maintain my simulacrum of Michael Manners.
So you do try to live a normal life?
Absolutely.
And why do you do that rather than just trying to hide away?
Because I've got nothing to be ashamed of. Now, that doesn't mean that anybody else knows. And I think one of the problems is that our social life is very narrow indeed. So
in a world of superheroes and a city that is weirder than most with aliens and superheroes floating about here, right? Why make up the pretense? Why have a secret identity?
Because it keeps me connected to Michael. And that's important to me. Because it confirms or makes me believe or allows me to lie to myself that I am human, really.
Excellent. Awesome. So we head across now to the pledge bearer, who is played by David. So David, do you want to introduce your character, and then we'll do your background story and your special question as well?
Yeah, certainly. So I am playing the hero Firebrand, or his mundane alter ego of Del Dashwood. Del is again probably like late 20s, I think. He's a black man, wears his hair long in braids. He is I think by day, I think he actually works now as a human rights lawyer, but I think he's one of these, he has like a superhero identity, and he also obviously is a person, but I don't think he, works hard to maintain that like split between the two. I think it's probably at least semi-public knowledge that who he is, sort of thing. It's not like a big secret type of deal. He as I said, he goes by the superhero name of Firebrand, and he has sworn an oath to be the bearer of the flame of Prometheus, which is carried in a Olympic torch style torch, sort of fancy metal torch. He I think in his persona as Firebrand, he sort of dresses in like a sort of like I almost like partway between like traditional like superhero spandex type costume, but sort of like mixed almost with like sort of club kid sort of. So he's got like the big spandex thing, but it also has like some of the panels in it are just kind of like mesh and gauze. It's in lots of like it's in black, red, and gold. Quite showy. He does wear like as in the little picture, he does wear like a sort of domino mask as well that is usually flaming for aesthetic reasons.
So you're definitely the most hip and fly of the team so far, right?
Yeah, quite possibly. And he in terms of like the powers that he is granted by the torch and by his oath, he is able to control fire, and he can fly. But the fire he controls, as well as like the potential to do fiery things, the flames can also heal people and cleanse them of poisons and the like.
So the special move that's sort of established you must have as a oath bearer is the pledge. Your oath and your pledge is to
yes.
Yeah, go through it.
So yeah, my oath is to use my ingenuity to fight against hatred in the service of camaraderie. And so I think kind of the his thing and like the sort of Prometheus's legacy is that kind of like sort of unlocking human potential and fighting for kind of unity and community amidst the travails of the world.
Nice. So how did you come to take your pledge?
Yeah, so back about 10-15 years ago sort of thing, the hero Prometheus was around, and again, same as you're kind of like Thor, just happens to be a god wandering around, because why not? Or demigod or Titan, whatever. And and he and at that time Del was his sidekick. Prometheus sort of like picked him out of the crowd to assist him in his quest. But I think as part, and maybe in Del's like solo movie before the big team up, I think he may have been called back to help Prometheus again, but Prometheus had to sacrifice himself to draw on a particular power to forestall some terrible fate that was bound for the world. And in doing so, he kind of created the torch to pass on to Firebrand to carry on. I think as a superhero, he was known as Spark. But yeah, Firebrand is now his kind of like hero persona.
So when he was a sidekick, he was Spark, and now he's Firebrand.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. How old is your character again?
I said probably like late 20s, like 20. We'll call it 29 for
And you think this probably
sake of
happened
putting a
about
number on it.
29? All right, yeah, about 12
Yeah.
years ago. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Grand. So, whom outside of the team understands your pledge?
So I think the person I'm going to go for is Ruth Rosenfarb, and she was a prior sidekick to Prometheus. She's probably like in her 70s now. She was she was active during like the civil rights movement back in the 60s, and I think she has retired to Bay City, and very much out of the superhero game now. But she's one of the few people that understands what it means to kind of carry the flame.
Did she carry it for a period, or was she just a sidekick?
I think she was mostly a sidekick. I think there was possibly a spell when she bore it, but not in quite the same way that Firebrand has ended up doing so.
Okay, that makes sense. Are you happy that I say that even though she's in the 70s, she's right in the center of the alien rights movement in Golden Bay City?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Who took the pledge with you or gave it to you? I think we've established that. Anything more you want to add?
Yeah, no, I think that pretty much covers it. Yeah, I think, like I said, it was to Prometheus himself that he gave the pledge. I guess it was possibly like witnessed by like the Olympians in a very vague sense, but I don't know that I'm that fussed about interacting with that side of things in general. But I mean, if they come up, that's cool. But
was Prometheus in that case, was he the latest in a line to carry the flame, or had they always carried the flame?
I think that Prometheus, is I think that he is to the, in again, like kind of with the whole Thor thing, he is, to the best of people's knowledge, actually the real Prometheus from out of legend. Certainly has always claimed that to be the case, but whether or not that's actually true or not is possibly up for conjecture.
Cool. The cats he set up, are you happy that in that case that Prometheus is more in that as guardian from out there somewhere, sort of, rather than on a mountain?
Yeah, sure thing.
Okay. Where is the center of your pledge's power?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think actually maybe I will call off on that, like the idea of there being an Olympus, whatever that is, whether it's just
Hollow Earth,
a super advanced planet of whatever, or an alternate dimension thing, or actually like a
Hollow Earth.
Yeah.
Hollow Earth.
We're looking for Nazis and dinosaurs, are we?
Yeah, maybe I need to write the cats, just so there's not going to be alien rights. It's just going to be Nazis riding dinosaurs, and that's the adventure.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah. So yeah, I think maybe the manifestation. I think maybe the actual like point on Earth is actually is actually like the summit of the like canonical Mount Olympus. Though the actual true source of its power is probably more metaphysical than that.
Yeah, that's cool. So, final character is the Tarnished, who is played by Donna. So, give us an introductory character. The same. We'll go through your questions.
Yeah. So I think actual real name is Emil Hansen. He is, I think, far older than most of the group, maybe late 40s, maybe even 50. So not too old. And I think was, or maybe still is, a scientist in, I'm not quite sure if I want to come down on working in the, what's the name of your character's company, Jim? Is this?
Why did you work for the Rivals? That's
I
much
don't
more
know.
fun.
Oh yeah, well, but oh, what is my company? It's probably named after. It's probably got my family name on it,
Okay.
because that just makes it even more. It's what is it? Yeah, it would be Tamura. It would be Tamura Tech.
Okay, yeah. So I think he's, pretty experienced scientist with, the gate technology. So a different division maybe from the one Kasumi is working in, or spends all of her time in. I'm not sure if it counts as work for her. Yeah, and I think during one of the early incursions, maybe even the original, Emil got to studying some of the sorcerous techniques of some of our alien friends, and maybe disappeared on a leave of absence for 5 or 10 years to learn the ropes, and came back that way. Yeah, I've taken a few of the moves that kind of play into the whole doing deals with the other side. So and not being bound to them maybe myself. So bargaining and darker knowledge. So yeah, definitely looking for some bad guys to rub shoulders with.
I'm sure I can oblige there. Lovely. So you've done something reckless as your first question as a tarnished. Who got hurt?
So let me know if this is, I wonder if we're talking about parallel universes, could there be a Jane Manners on this side as well? Okay, so I think in one of the experimental labs in Tamura Tech, we were playing with controlling a gate, and it went horribly wrong, as these things do. And I think so. I think Jane Manners here was not disintegrated, but was disincorporated, so has become like a spirit. So still around, but maybe not strictly alive and kicking here either.
So it might make sense to make, if you're playing with that type of stuff, that you're connected to the government agency threshold as a scientist for them. Because if you're slightly dodgy, who's going to employ you? A government agency. Those are the rules in comic books, right?
Okay.
She's around, right? This goes to Jane, who's possibly part from this dimension and part from the other one, and has a son that she never had, because that will give me so much angst and fun to play with, which is why I do superhero games.
Could her son here have been killed in the accident?
Well, it was in a lab, so unless it was a bring your kid to work day, maybe it was at exactly the same moment, right? If we look back at the records, yeah.
Across the cosmic ballet.
Okay.
Wonderful. Giving me goosebumps.
Maybe.
Why are you looking to redeem yourself?
I mean, if that is not enough,
that's just a science accident, man. These things happen.
These things happen.
Just get a Band-Aid on and get on with it.
Yeah. I think whatever supervillain or extra dimensional entity that we have previously struggled with, I'm responsible for letting them come across.
Oh, so that's like in the origin story where you dealt with them and sent them back, and you still occasionally have nightmares of them because you know they're not really gone.
Yeah.
Okay, leave that with me because I'd like to play with that. a little bit. Who outside the team thinks better of you than you do?
I think if Threshold a federal agency, then some kind of federal officer who we might run into. So let's call her Brenda Baker.
Okay, so Brenda Baker, who's a member of Threshold, excellently. Why do they think better of you?
I think when the chips are down, Emil comes through. I mean, for her and for the city, he's not a supervillain. Obviously, mistakes were made, and he is trying to rectify that.
Okay. And who are you still friends with, even though they're on the other side?
I think there is a supervillain called Red Mantis, who is like an assassin for the bad guys.
What's your relationship with them then? Are we having Batman, Catwoman thing going down here?
I think when we were both on the other side together, we saved each other's skins enough to kind of get past, or at least to ignore being on different sides.
Got you. Okay, awesome. We'll take a break shortly, but what I'd like us to do sort of during that break is have a think about it, because we don't have to go through these one at a time, but we do have to set our touchstones up, folks, okay? So the touchstones, you get 4 of those at starting point, and it sort of gives you the idea of what your questions may be. There are no lists provided, but it gives you sort of a theme that you want to hit for. Touchstones may be people or places or things that matter to you. So that might be, if we're doing Batman, that could be Alfred and Commissioner Gordon or Stately Wayne Manor. These things matter. They're important to you, right? When they come up into a scene and you get to trigger that that touchstone, it adds a +1, as if it's similar to influence, right, in a mass sort of setting to your role. One of the moves I have as the MC is to take that touchstone away from you, so to strain your relationship, to take the enemy out, take the relationship away, to blow up the thing. But these are effectively, I really like them. It's almost as if you had influence connected with the beacons drives list. It is, these things matter to me, GM, go muck with them. That's what they're for, right? So we got to set those 4 things up. As I say, it gives you an idea. So we look at the tarnish, it's like sacrificing reputation, straying from the boss, resisting temptation, fellow fiends. These things matter. They may well be established by your backstory questions. But I'm going to suggest we stop rolling camera just about here for a moment. Okay, so our players here are now setting up their touchstones on their sheet. I say touchstones are similar to influence in masks. What you're doing here is you're using these to signal to me as the MC and other players what's important to you, and these might be locations or places that will likely to frame things. When things happen in that location or with those people, or I bring them in and they're in the scene, you get a +1. Touchstones can be lost, they can be reforged. There is no limit to the number of touchstones you can have. However, if you go above 9, something interesting happens to you and you get one of your tracks changed. And if you go below 3, you're losing contact with the real world and something interesting you, one of your tracks goes down. Okay, the tracks there, sorry, would be your confidence and trust. Okay. Oh, I note just as a second, everyone's team does start at 2, so I'm just going to adjust that for everybody. I think this is quite neat, but it's quite freeform. There's sort of a thematic one on the playbook for you, and but we set them up. So some players have got theirs full, so I'm going to go through those. I'm going to go in reverse character keeper order this time, and I'm going to ask Warlock to introduce us to their touchstones.
Yeah, so I think the first one is off the list, thematic list. I've picked sacrificing reputation. So yeah, I think I'm interested to see what happens when other people see him talking to villains and maybe don't understand exactly what he's trying to do, or maybe they do. So yeah, let's see that. And then the next one is Jane Manners, who he disincorporated in that lab accident way back when, and I guess that will be important for Freak when we get to that. I'm also picked Red Mantis, the supervillain assassin who worked with him back when he was learning his sorcery. They're still friendly. And then lastly, I picked the laboratory in Threshold, where he started to gain his powers, or gain an understanding of them at least, and also where that terrible accident occurred as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Firebrand, tell me your touchstones.
Certainly. So yeah, the touchstones I've gone for are Armistead Street, which is the street Dell lives on. It's one of those, old-fashioned style San Francisco streets with the old wooden pointed houses, pointed roof houses, probably painted in all sorts of interesting colours. It's one of the sort of little holdouts against the overall gentrification of Golden Bay City. Still has a strong sort of sense of community, local shops, that sort of thing. It's the place where he lives, and it's that little connection to kind of a to humanity. The next touchstone I've gone for is Ruth Rosenfarb, as mentioned in the background. She was a former psychic of Prometheus. She is now in her 70s and is still a member of the alien rights movement, and is still quite active in the town. The next one I've taken is again one of my thematic one from my playbook, which is following my oath. The oath that Firebrand's taken, he does genuinely believe in it. Tries to uphold it as much as he possibly can. Genuinely believes in trying to get the best out of people and helping people to change and become better. And the final touchdown I've gone for now is Zerek Thane. They are a young alien living in the city. They are an intern at the law firm that Dell works at.
Okay. Can I ask about that following your oath? Is that like a well-known, does the world at large know your oath that you follow?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you. Freak, tell me about your touchstones, my friend.
Okay. I think I may have to add to these. So I've just realized I'm supposed to have 6. But the 4 starters, Marie McKenna, wife and up-and-coming TV news journalist. The Threshold Gateway, I arrived in the vicinity of the gateway, but I'm guessing, far enough away from it not to fall into the usual kind of threshold net.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel a connection to it. And perhaps, therefore, I'll just switch the order. I feel connected to the Duodopolis twins. They found me when I arrived and didn't take advantage of me.
Who are the Duodopolis twins?
They are the people running hard suits competitors.
Oh, I love you so much.
Duplatech, I think, is the name of that company.
Duplatech.
That's right. That's right.
Duplitek, Duplatech.
Excellent.
And my fourth one so far is Ruth Rosenfarb, because I think Michael, Michael, who is this man, wants to break down barriers between humans and arrived aliens, and perhaps the changed. And I suppose underlying that is a question of, is Freak human? Question mark.
Excellent.
And now I need to think about the ones that are actually in the playbook. I'll come back to you.
That's fine. Look, you can have between 4 and 6. If you want more, have them, but 4 is probably good. And if you want to add more, the other 2, like when we are in play, if they come to life, we can do that as well.
I suppose I'm struggling a bit with the way, because the touchstones on my playbook are with one from the following list, different from the rest, still human inside.
Mm-hmm.
Who else could do this and isolated by my body? Now, I don't understand a couple of those, but I am wondering whether I might add an alien still human inside. Yeah, this.
Yeah. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that interpretation.
I'll give some thought to that.
Okay. Hard suit. Give me what you got. I know you're still working on them, but let's see what we have there.
Yeah. So, I've got Dr. Bautista. He is the septuagenarian Filipino scientist who is head of project development at Tamura Tech.
Has he only got 4 days before his retirement?
Oh, no. He's like he's made it very clear that like he would like to be buried in the lab. You know, encased in a block of lucite so he can observe what they're doing. So he's he will be carried out of that lab. My prototype hard suit, the first version of my armor. And what I said is I have no use for it, but Dr. Bautista insists I keep it for some reason.
Lovely. Where's it kept?
I will tell anyone that listens I have no use for it.
Cool. But where's it kept? In the lab?
Yeah, I think it's in a lab.
Mm-hmm.
It's in a lab. It's in like a display case, right?
Okay, and then we got
Popotori is my favorite Sanrio character from my childhood. He's a fat little puffin bird, and he's always shown with like a little like a fishtail sticking out of his beak.
Help a fellow out because I read more British American comics than Japanese ones. What's the Sanrio character? Is it like one of the chibi type Hello Kitty?
Yeah, like Hello Kitty is a Sanrio character. Yeah, it's like a mascot for a company that is like cute and cartoony and stuff like this.
Sweet, got it.
And he's
lovely.
He's the whenever I go online anonymously, he's my avatar. He's that like when my suit has a message for me, the AI, it pops up as him and tells me what's going on. I think one of my other touchstones is I'm just going to call it, just spitballing, which is like, I will just like verbalize outrageous, ridiculous, like incredibly dangerous, half-baked ideas as to get them into the world, to like actualize them. Then I can decide whether they make sense or not.
Sweet.
So, yeah.
Okay, I'll let you finish writing that one in, and then
Cool.
we're gonna go. We'll go and do the relationships, and then we'll open our first issue. Or
And I think the other thing that's just right out there is that the company itself is going to be one of my touchstones.
that makes perfect sense, right?
Tamara Tech.
Yeah. Okay. So look, Warlock, we'll come back to you, and we're going to do your first relationship. Right? We're going to zigzag through and back. So you'll be first and last. Who is keeping a watchful eye on you?
I feel like,
if I wasn't clear, this is a piece.
yeah. What do you think? Our pledge bearer Firebrand isn't quite sure about this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Firebrand knows you're trying your best, but it's he's got to be there to help you in case you slip.
Did you have a set 2 when you were Spark and Prometheus was still around? Because he is an older character.
Yeah,
possibly, yeah.
I mean, it may have been in the timeline far enough back that this is when Warlock was learning sorcery for the other on the other side, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So, Firebrand, can you choose one of your relationship questions, please?
Yeah. I'm going to go with I think that Freak is just as worthy as me, and perhaps I'll find out for sure.
Sweet. Freak, would you like to choose one of your relationship questions, please?
Yeah. Now, Jim may not remember this, but I did. I turned up for one session of a game in which he played Hardsuit, but I think that the girl on the inside of Hardsuit was different then. So I think that I still can't get out of my head that Hardsuit comforted me, but I know it's a different person.
So a different Hardsuit, but still you've got that.
So it's the suit. It's when she suits up, I relate, but when the mask comes off, it's not her.
Sweet. Look forward to seeing that being role played. Hardsuit. Can I have one of your relationship questions, please?
Yeah, I've got I built something handy for someone. Firebrand. I've built for you a battery that can hold some of that power of yours so that you can use it even like if technically your oath has run out or your, like whatever, like if it's past the 24 hours or maybe you slipped up and you've lost access to it for a little while or something like that. I've built a battery that can hold it so that you can access it.
Cool.
And I'd love to play to find out whether I've actually told you that or whether like how upset you might be that I've taken it upon myself to do that. So I would love to are you cool with starting with the fact that I built this thing, but you don't know I built this thing?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Because that's like such a Tony Stark move, I feel like, to
a greater trickster than a Hephaestus.
Okay. So I built something handy for Firebrand.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. Let's say we'll zigzag back. So, Hardsuit, sorry, can I ask you to give me your second
sure.
one?
Yeah. And I want to be super clear that there's no way anybody else could get a hold of that battery and use your power. That's not a thing that possibly could ever happen. So I built fail-safes. Someone seems full of ideas for the future. I think that's Freak.
Yeah, I think Freak or Michael is a bit of an idealist, perhaps.
Oh, I'm sorry. You thought you meant that that's what you like. Sorry. Your ideas for the future are ideas that you give me for the future.
Okay.
I look at all that stuff your body can do in the nanotechnology, and I'm like, oh my God, we could do something with that. So,
Yeah.
They're probably functionally immortal.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's any functionally about it. I mean, we'd need to run some tests. You probably wouldn't consent to that. So, whatever data we can gather passively, it seems like. It's a good start.
Okay, if anyone would like to put their special bets now with Hardsuit, we'll finish this game as a hero or Lex Luthor. Let's.
Well, I mean, I've decided on my final relationship there.
Freak, who knew you before you changed?
This is tricky because I was changed when I arrived. So I wonder whether Warlock knew this dimension's Michael.
Well, you've got to go to your mum, if not.
Yeah, well,
yeah, but we're keeping that one.
Yeah, but I think maybe that's the case. That works for me. If that works for Donna, who's much more important than it works for.
Yeah.
Firebrand, who could benefit from some additional responsibilities?
Yeah, that's an odd one. That I think I'm gonna say that it's probably Hardsuit. I think that they could probably, not that they don't have a lot on their plate already, but they could probably maybe do with some responsibilities that are less focused on the whole science thing.
The whole humanity must become immortal Superman.
Yeah.
Okay, so Warlock, who have you got marked because they're shadier than they seem?
I mean, there's a reason that I don't work for Tamura Tech, and that's because their evil scientist slot was already taken. I think especially given what we've heard, the ideas on Freak are, it's going to be Hardsuit.
Brilliant. Okay, so last thing I want to establish is: are you sort of an established team? Do you just sort of team up on a less frequent basis, let's say more defender style, or have you never worked together before? Probably not the latter. But which are the first two? Established team or occasional team?
Freak's a team player. I think he's a bit nervous on his own, so I think I can't imagine that he's been out there individual superheroing regularly.
Okay.
Yeah, I think likewise, given his origins as a sidekick, I think that that Firebrand is probably inclined towards, and also his whole shtick being like unity and camaraderie. I think his probably his inclination would be to be part of a team as well. Whether they've been a team for a long time or not, I don't see this as being a group that's been together for like decades or anything, but just from the timings of characters and stuff. But
Yeah.
let alone, but certainly, I don't think this is their first rodeo.
Cool. Okay. Do you have a team name in mind? This is worse than naming your own character, right? Having to name the team.
Beacons. Because I think Firebrand's the obvious kind of congeal around, because he's the only one with a mission.
Yeah, Beacons is great. I like that.
I just wish it was always this easy to name.
I think definitely, again, like because I always like thinking, so I think that definitely they're kind of like when they were first written back in the 60s. I think they definitely would have been the Golden Bay Beacons, but you know they've dropped to the Golden Bay bit as they've gone through various iterations in the comics lore.
Yeah, you're like in an Ultimates imprint, right? Got to be gritty and real, or not. Certainly cinematic. Okay, so we're going to go into play for the last hour tonight and get our character voices dealt with. Let me just explain one more thing before we do that. There you can see there's 3 tabs in the character keeper: basic moves, B-plot moves, and teamwork moves. Okay, the basic moves are affected by your confidence and your trust. Okay, so if your confidence trust starts at 0, but if they go up or down, they're an additional modifier as well as the stat that I mentioned. So direct confrontation is daring, and that would be daring including confidence. So it might take away or might add. Okay, so there's 2 stats that go onto your basic moves. Your B-plot moves are much more traditional PBTA type moves. I really like the fact there are things like dealing with your peeps, sneaking behind enemy lines, researching and investigating. Right, these things exist here as moves, and I think I really like them. I think they're brilliant. Teamwork moves is for when you're doing the big Avengers fight scene. Okay. So the big Avengers fight scene is where you team through and we spin back and we share powers. So you're not going to use that for every fight, but you are like to use it for bigger villain fights. Okay, that all right? So let us open the first issue of the Beacons, where we see Golden Bay City, and the opening shot is 20 years ago, as we see the Space Hawk crashing through a rift that shears the Golden Bay Bridge in 2. Something comes through with it. The heroes on board are fighting it. If you want to know more about that, you should check out Mass Cosmic. That's the editor's note in the corner, right? But they aren't our heroes here today. 20 years later, we see, as I say, in the cinematic universe, the bay portal open and close. We see the bridge being partially repaired, a new bridge being raised. We can see the city growing up behind it with scientific research and spaceships coming back and forth. Time passes. We are in a city which looks, gosh, almost a little bit like San Francisco, surrounded by massive tech science hubs, as if a glorious old classic American city had been swallowed up by high-tech organizations. Life imitating art. But here we are, and this is Golden Bay City and the adventures of the Beacons. So let's establish, I think, I would like to establish where on a a normal workaday solution, we see hard suit.
Yeah, we have some, cyberpunk Ghost in the Shell looking like 150-story office, like skyscraper with, some kind of like strangely shaped pylons around the base to absorb any shock from any seismic activity and stuff like this. And the camera, whatever, like we're in a comic. So we see the panel of like that building, and then we see the logo of Nakamura Tech across the top there. Hang on, let me just make sure. Let me open try and get the right tabs here. Tamura Tech. And we kind of, and like just, and so there's like that logo that goes across the side of the building. And above the logo, we can see basically like the entire penthouse floor is a lab. And it's, it's like a cross between like a Mercedes garage that you would find at like a high-end car dealership, like and like an Apple store, right? So it's all gleaming white and reflective surfaces and all this kind of stuff and everything. And there are like multiple 3D printers going and stuff like this. And I think that Kasumi is like kind of, when it comes in on her, she's wearing like like coveralls with just like a plain, like a like a sleeveless t-shirt, and like her hair is kind of pulled back and like just like with a scrunchie thrown around it, and she's got a hand on her chin, and she's looking at a schematic that's like hovering in the air there over a holographic table or something like this, and she says, well, oh my god, if I put retro boosters on it. And she goes, I could go to Mars in 36 hours. And her eyes just widen as that thought occurs to her. Not seeming to process any of the other problems with going to Mars, but just the fact that like she could build rockets that could do that.
Okay. Are you alone, or just the AI with you, or is anyone else in the lab?
I think I am by myself. There's there's like I said, there's like 3D printers are going. There's several versions of the hard suit kind of hanging in racks and stuff like this. But this is just me, like I said, just spitballing. I'm here looking out, and like it's all just like full length, cathedral ceiling, floor to ceiling, full windows, so that I can look out over the, all over Golden Bay City here if I need to.
Though it would seem to me, as you are thinking and reflecting on this, we can introduce ourselves a move, Hardsuit, because there's a move called Train and Reflect. When you explore the limits of your ability in a safe environment and give them your full attention. Let's see how this is going for Sumi as we're doing this. So you're going to roll this with your power strength.
Yes. So this is okay, so this is Train and Reflect.
Yeah. So it's in the B plot moves.
Oh, so am I training and reflecting, or am I cloistering myself in research?
I'm very happy for you to choose the the move which has the greatest effect to what you're trying to achieve. Yeah. So the difference between the two, for anyone out there, Train and Reflect allows you to sort of mutate or permeate your powers, describe a new technique, whilst cloister yourself and research, learn what something does. So it's sort of a little bit like assess the situation, but more investigative.
Yeah, and that's more like a specific. It looks like for that I want to have a specific problem that I'm then trying to tackle.
Yeah.
So I think train and reflect actually makes sense here. So are you cool if I just go ahead and roll my dice?
I am very happy that people use physical dice in the safety and support tools. You'll find a link to a roll for your party, but I like
Cool.
physical dice myself.
So power's not my big strong suit. I'm more about thinky stuff, but I'm looking at my suit, thinking about being able to alter my flying jets so that I can, leave the atmosphere and travel at, sublight speeds. And I got a 9. Minus, my power's actually -1. So that puts me down to an 8, but it's still an 8. So that's cool.
Excellent.
So it looks like on a 7 and 9, I can spend a team to pick one. So what's our situation with team right now?
Everyone's got their own team.
That's right.
Team is 2, right? So there's not a shared team pool in this this game. You have your own team stat, which is like your +1 pool, but you can sort of bring together and can be useful for teamwork moves.
Okay. So if I choose to gain a new permutation of one of my powers for the duration of the session, since we've only got...
that will count up until the end of next session as well, my friend.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. Then I am going to gain a new permutation of one of my powers for the duration of the session. And that is I have suborbital flight, which I can use to actually, if I need to actually go into outer space, I can do that because I figured out how to alter my, my magnetic, electromagnetic flight systems to do that.
Well, that's established. If you didn't before, you do now.
Yeah.
Bang. So we will leave that as the new power permutations open up into the VRC system. And we sort of see a frame of Popo Tori putting their little feathery hands over their face and shaking and going, I want to go to space.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I immediately walk over and my hands start flying across the holographic panel on one of those 3D printers. And I take whatever was half printed on it and just sweep it off onto the floor and get it working on the new thing.
Lovely. Excellent. Let's turn the page and encounter Warlock for the first time. What is a day in the life of Warlock like?
So I think the threshold building, right, is very built by the lowest bidder, right? Government facility, maybe 2 or 3 stories high max, though maybe with a significant basement to it, and spread out over acres, overlooking the remains of the Golden Gate Bridge. And we see Warlock in his cities, walking through the campus, maybe chatting with Brenda, his friendly agent. There's a new cadre of junior agents being brought in, or generally speaking, for to be watchers on the gate, and they need some day one orientation on things you can do to fight off demons and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of top tips for dealing with extra dimensional incursions, and some hardware like blessed trinkets or whatever it is that can give you an extra second to pull out your service pistol. So I think there's maybe a dozen agents in an outdoor kind of lecture theater style thing, because indoor what we're going to do is a little bit dangerous. So yeah, we see him walking them through paces. Maybe there's a small extra dimensional being that he has in a jar for this specific training purpose. And I think on the overhead panel, we can see like the amphitheater that he's in. There's actually like glyphs in the little stone pieces in the grass, which looks very normal paving from when you're standing in it, but definitely mystical when you see that overhead shot.
Okay. So, I think I say as you're setting this up, the neurocruds have not seen something like this before, and they sort of step back with a look of whoa and awe in their face. Are you trying to impress or manage your powers in such a way, or is it just a simple sort of trial demonstration? Do you want to erupt them, or do you want to?
Well, I mean, I want to impress them, but I want to impress upon them rather that, you know, these things play for keeps, and this is not, you know, not something you can trifle with. Although, you know, over a glass of beer, a warlock might say, "What else do you do with dark powers other than, you know, meddle with them?" You know, for these young agents, it's very, very serious, and you know, there's no joking around. But and I think for that, you need a demonstration that scares them, right? So it's not just a checkbox exercise for warlock.
Look, let's see if again, so we can introduce some of the moves to this game, which are familiar but slightly different. So let's see if this goes off as you expect it to. Okay. So I'd suggest that I'd like you to explore the wield your powers, which you'll find in the basic move. It's confidence aligned, but your confidence is 0 at the moment.
Yeah. So I'm rolling plus power, which is 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I rolled a 7, so it is still a 7 to 9 with a bonus.
Okay, so on a 7 to 9, when you wield your powers on a hit, choose 1. On a 10 plus, choose 2.
I mean, I think I'm not sure how many of these make sense in the fiction, but create something useful from your environment, maybe.
Yeah.
That maybe I build up a little bit of trust with one of these young agents. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm very happy that that is the case. That this slightly vainglorious demonstration of your powers goes off. What does it look like?
Yeah, so I think, you know, when this jar, you know, this demon in a jar opens, you know, we see like the oxygen or even the light is like sucked out of the amphitheater, and you know, some of the breath out of the nearest agents, you know, goes like it's cold outside, and you can kind of see some of their veins pop out, you know, as if they've been, you know, put outside in freezing cold weather, and then it just kind of leaps towards the nearest one, and then we see this kind of cascading red lightning, you know, arc out from Warlock's fingers as he makes an incantation, and then, you know, it grabs that demon and, you know, drags it slowly, inch by inch, back out of the agents' faces.
So one of the agents gasps. It's a young Black woman. She's one of the researchers. Her name is Alex Trevelyan, and she gasps as she sees this and goes, "Whoa, that is like so cool.
And I think maybe the less spectacular part of that lesson is showing them how to get a similar, though less awesome effect out of, saying that same incantation, holding their little relic that's now part of their uniform.
And I think as you're sort of pulling that off, we see the threshold base commander sort of step in. He is in his 50s, wearing a jumpsuit, and he sort of raises an eyebrow and looks at you. And we see for the first time Colonel Snowman Rogers, who is sort of raises his eyebrow and he says, "Are you showing off again?"
Well, show don't tell, right? That's what they say. Frankly, I don't think many of these agents are ready to believe until they see. But that's fine by me.
He sort of looks at you and goes, "Yeah, just keep it safe, Warlock. We don't want an incident like the last one." He taps you on the shoulder and pulls a cigar out of his pocket and lights it and walks on by.
Okay.
Freak, where do we see you as the page turns to introduce this character in the story?
Tamura Tech is this big skyscraper in the middle of town, isn't it?
I think if we sort of picture this like San Francisco, you've got sort of the original, not quite, well, I'd say still Victorian age, but that early sort of turn of the century, 1900 city, and then you've got the tech complexes behind it, almost surround it, so it's come up behind the city.
Okay, then I think probably the camera goes up from the threshold base where we've just seen Warlock and scans round, and we see the Tamura Tech symbol because it's on the top of the building, isn't it? And the camera zooms towards it and then veers right to Duplatech. And in a large kind of airplane hangar size space, what do they call Dalton and Dilton Duodopolis, and Freak, and they're saying, "No, look, you can do this, Michael. You just have to, it just involves, just really concentrating. So just try again. You can, you've mastered the one skin. You should be able to master any skin. Just think about it." And the way they speak, if this was a comic, they would be finishing one another's sentences. And Freak is there in his kind of smooth Silver Surfer appearance, and his features are changing, and the texture of his surface changes, and it looks like it's going to be somebody, and then it's Michael again, and it looks like it's going to be somebody, and then it's Michael again. And if Freak could sweat, he would be sweating. That's what.
Okay, so you're trying to sort of master sort of an extension of your powers at this point. Is that?
I think I am. I think that in theory, I should be able to shape my body into one. In theory, just by altering the refractive nature of the nanites in my surface. So I think, lost it. I think I am training and reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm exploring the limits of my abilities.
Dun, dun, dun. So that is also rolling with power. And at this present moment in time, you're in the neutral zone for your confidence and trust.
And how does the fact that my influence this?
Say that again. I lost your sound then for a second.
How because my touchstones, the Duodopolis twins, are present.
Right. Cool. So that if you choose to invoke that touchstone, you would gain a +1 to your roll at this point.
Okay. A straightforward power, which is 2, rolling with +3.
Okay, and I will just confirm, just checking myself. You can roll that touchstone question either before or after the roll.
Okay. That is 10.
Dun, dun. That's a full hit on your try to reflect. So 10 plus, pick 1.
Gain a new permutation of one of your powers for the duration of the next session. I think that I can mirror one of the twins.
So we see the scene. If you look in them, go and then they laugh in union and go, "We're triplets now, yeah."
I maybe it was just because I was looking at you when I was trying to do it. Maybe I need to kind of look at something in order to emulate it.
I said, "I wonder how far this goes. Can you fool the retinal scanners? Maybe the fingerprints?" And I think you see this these tests being run. In my mind, somehow these two are Swedish. That's just sort of my mental image of them.
Yeah, with kind of business haircuts.
Okay.
In fact, let's make them Bjorn Borg.
Yeah, they've got that Swedish sort of designer look about them. It's so cool. And we turn the page on this, and we see Firebrand. And where do we encounter Firebrand? Paint that scene in this page for us, please.
The first little sort of panel we get with Firebrand is just this like shot of like a featureless shiny black mask with maybe a bit of the city reflected in the visor and sort of flashing past by the side of it. And then we kind of zoom out and we just see a figure in black with this black helmet on, riding a bike. Big zigzag hillside streets before cutting to sort of a shot to the outside of what's obviously a courthouse, and sort of just get a picture from behind of just sort of one of the guards outside, one of the sort of handed a bike and a helmet by sort of a figure out of panel. And the first shot we actually see Firebrand, sort of the doors to the courthouse swinging open. They're walking in. They're dressed a light-coloured suit with a like a deep purple silk shirt on underneath it. They kind of we can kind of hear the sound of like a bell chiming. It's obviously chiming the hour as they sort of walk past or walk up to a figure. They've got kind of like I'm imagining like that sort of classic like long pale blue skin, big expressive eyes, almost like kind of octopus eye type look to them. Very long neck and sort of long fingers with those sort of like little suckers on the end. A little checked waistcoat and a bow tie, and are holding a big folder full of papers and a coffee in a takeaway cup no, not in a takeaway cup, sorry, no, like a in a reusable cup, which Firebrand sort of grabs off of them, kind of kicks open the door to the courtroom, and strides down the centre to take their place at the desk at the front of the court. Oh, sorry, I think you're muted there, Dave.
You take a seat. I presume you are a defense lawyer rather than a prosecutor, but
yes. Although, maybe. Oh, this might be like a civil suit or something like that. But yeah, right. I think that's
cool. So you take the seat, and we see the judge looking over at you and raises their eyes and say, "Running late, Mr. Dashwood."
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'll try not to let it happen again.
That would be deeply appreciated if you possibly could manage to make it on time in future. Still, you're here, so let us begin. You are sitting next to your defendant. Her skin it's sort of slightly between black, slightly towards green. Her eyes glow yellow and glitter. She has been accused. What has she been accused of? Or what is she here in court for?
I think that she's been accused of using some sort of like innate empathic powers to like essentially to like commit like fraud or a sort of like something untoward in the business world.
She is simply known as the eighth of the ring, and she travels in a mind-linked family where there are 8 of them, and she sits as you sit down, and you can hear her in her mind, and she asks you, "Didn't you bring me a coffee?"
I'm sorry, just the one, I'm afraid. Though, hey, take it. I'm plenty energized from my my ride.
She smiles and says, "No, I was only teasing you." She hasn't said a word. She is projecting her thoughts into your mind. And the judge sort of knocks their gavel and says, "No telepathy in court." So, she is sort of, the judge says, "Do you have a case to bring, counsel?"
Yes, Your Honor. Not only do are the specific accusations that have been made against my client entirely unfounded, and there was no malicious or immoral intent behind any of her actions. But what's more, we believe that the accusations brought by the plaintiff are nothing more than a discriminatory tactic intended to besmirch my client's good name and falsely enrich their own company.
Okay, so that's the point where the defense that you planned through with Zarek Thane comes to fruition, and we see a flashback scene to you looking and researching in the labs. Sorry, in the law office, suit style, as you would get to roll close to yourself in research.
Sure thing. So to close to myself in research,
And then a library or lab, roll with genius. And on
genius,
plus,
excellent.
10 plus, pick 2. On a 7 to 9, pick 1.
So I've rolled an 8. None of my stats are above 1, I don't think.
The genius is a
So
0.
genius is 0. So yes, that's an 8. So I get to choose 1 from the list. So I discover a flaw or weakness in someone or something. You learn where someone or something came from. You learn what something is and what it does, or you form a defense against someone or something. I think I'm going to take the certainly the obvious one by terminology there, and I'm going to I am going to form a defense against the against this legal challenge.
So we have proved here that you could play Matt Murdock or Ace Phoenix in this game, and
Yes.
it'll work just well. Bang! And we see this a few minutes later, where you're stepping outside the courtroom with everything acquitted, and Eighth of the Ring says, "You are glorious." She doesn't say; it's more telepathy again into your brain. She says, "How can I possibly repay you?"
Well, it's just all part of the service, ma'am. We do what we can.
Says she telepathises again, saying, "If you ever think of anything I can do for you, just ask." And then the car she was accused of stealing pulls up with some of the other of the 8 in there, and she gets in and they drive away. Let's turn the page. We see on this page a crackle of energy, a Kirby crackle of energy, as a gateway between this world and another opens, and in there we see a tall black dog with golden eyes and earrings. It sniffs into the air and growls. And puts a howl out. As it howls, it gives forth a cry, which is anyone connected to the gate or the ethereal planes would undoubtedly hear. So what does it feel like for you, Warlock, as you see, I'm going to put an image into the chat window, as this dog howls into the sky?
Yeah, I think for Warlock, I think maybe he's doing some work in his little cubicle outside the lab, and we just get a close-in panel of the hair on the back of his neck standing up, and then it's slowly even though there's no breeze in here, excepting the terrible air conditioning, we can see the hairs slowly thrum, almost in in unison with that the hound's heartbeat. Yeah, I think Warlock closes his desktop and starts to call the others.
It reverberates across the threshold. Freak, how does it feel to you?
I think it's evening, because you have to have evening for that crackle to happen, don't you? And so I think that we cut to Michael and Marie having dinner at home, and he's explaining excitedly about what he's managed to do today when he was practicing. He says, "Look, I'll show you," and he stands up and he focuses himself and he goes Silver Surfer, and you begin to see the features of one of the twins appearing, and then the howl, we see it coming in over the top of the page, and his features ripple. He loses the twin, and instead you just for a moment see the shape of the dog's head.
Your wife gasps and looks sort of slightly aghast and says, "Are you okay, my love?"
I don't know. What was that? ...
I said, "Well, for one moment you look like one of the Duodopolis twins, and then you look like a dog-headed Duodopolis twin. Keep trying."
Okay.
Can I give you some advice?
Yeah.
You really need to practice by looking at pictures of Ben Affleck. And Hardsuit, how would you know that something, because Hardsuit would be prepared, right, for something that might breach through the unstable portal between space and time here? What does that look like?
I mean, I think it looks like I am looking at my, I'm looking at some kind of a thing or something, and that little Sanrio character just like pops up in the middle of my design and is like flapping his little wings and like pointing at another screen. And I sigh and I turn and I look at it, and I've got like, and I do the, I've got all kinds of like that, like, this is like a chunk of our CGI budget here, right? Where I, like tap a couple of things in the air, and then, a globe comes up and there's a little glowing spot, and I spin it and I pull it out and I kind of do one of these, and I'm like, and then I go, magic. Okay. And then I just, and I like literally like I make a gesture like this, and like a holographic phone kind of pops into my hand, kind of like just appears there. And I call Emil.
Okay. And finally, Firebrand. What describe to us how the flame of Prometheus looks? And where is it kept when you're not active? What does it look like in its place of rest?
Yeah, so I think yeah, as I described, I think like Firebrand lives in one of these like old Victorian houses, and I think there is like a little garden out back, and there's a little sort of just looks like one of those fairly sort of standard like octagonal white painted gazebos in the back of it, and in the center of it there is like there is this like metal wrought iron stand with this like golden torch in it, which burns with a bright light. It shades between sort of red and gold as it burns, and like it looks like it's sort of. I mean, obviously, it looks out of place in the general sense, but I mean, it's also like clearly, there's sort of an aura of safety around it. But yeah, and I think maybe it will like flare up, and we just then get like a cut to Firebrand himself, and I think we just see like for a moment like a flame burns in his eyes.
Okay, as you see this, let me see the flame. It does grow in size. What color is it normally?
Yeah, so normally it kind of probably mostly burns in a kind of like warm reddish yellow color, sort of a sort of regular flame for want of a better word. When it's particularly hot, it sort of gets more to that white color. But yeah, normally it's a kind of reddish yellow color.
It takes on a blue tone just for a few seconds, and then goes back to its normal color.
Cool.
So we see the team for the final panels in tonight's issue taking their places in your headquarters. Where is the headquarters, and what does it look like? Who has provided the headquarters to begin with?
Oh, I think that's got to be me. I'm the billionaire. So, oh, you know what? I bought. This is San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
We bought Alcatraz Island.
Okay.
So we've got a our like little, our kind of like superhero compound and HQ and testing ground and all that kind of stuff is Alcatraz Island.
Do you keep your superhero prisoners here as well?
Well, it's like we have a holding facility for keeping people there, not permanently. That's not our job. That's what is the organization that we get the kind of superhero
threat? We'll figure that one out. Threshold is probably enough for a 4-parter, right? We won't have another one as well. So
yes, yeah. So like we turn them over to Threshold to face justice and stuff like that. But we if it's required, we can keep people on site for a few days if we have to.
Cool. So describe your main meeting room for me, please, Hadsuit.
Well, we've so it's I think it's like a kind of like a blocky. We've got like several smaller buildings, and there's one that's I think I've got a thing where we've got something that is, I don't know, like the size of like it's like a large conference room, right? And it's got and it normally has, kind of sleek silver. I think it's the same thing where like, I really like my like floor to ceiling windows, that go all the panopticon kind of thing. And so that's what we've got here. But, we can press a button and it will insta-tint them, and we can have hologram, and like and right now the retractable table is popped up out of the middle, and there's chairs for everybody, and, whatever. There's like snacks laid out on the table. because I always do that whether anybody eats them or not.
And
So we've got, whatever, like some sushi and some, whatever it is that, Freak eats. I don't know, nuts and bolts or something like that.
insects and transistors. Freak, what in this facility reminds us of your previous accomplishments as a team?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that I arrived with the helmet of the cosmic super villain that I did away with at the point when I ceased to exist in that dimension. And I think that's sitting on a shelf. And I can't now for the life of me remember his name.
Doesn't matter too much, but every good super base needs a trophy room, right? Firebrand, what in this room tells us of the hope that the city always has in you?
I think there is like in one of the one of the break room type areas, the sort of common room area, there is just like a wall with like all pictures from school kids and stuff pinned up on a big so it's probably those like magnetic push pin type things where sort of holding it in place over this big like metallic wall. Just all these sort of like pictures of like drawings of us as a super team and stuff from kids.
And Warlock, as you take your seat around the table, what was the name of the person who will never sit again in the empty seat?
I think there's there was I guess is it the Beacon, right? The Interloper playbook is what I'm thinking of. Someone called Javier Martinez, who we relied on for a lot of. I think he got everyone on the team, and maybe was the glue that held us all together. His seat is empty.
The seat team, take the seat, and the screens come on as readings come through from across the city, and the team look at each other and prepare for the next steps into action. And on that, we will flip the back page of the shorter issue.
This is like the 8-page preview that you get stapled into other comics the month before.
Absolutely right. But there's still always a letters page in one of my comics, and this time the letters page editor is Hardsuit. So what's the letters page about?
Oh, let me see. When you say what's it about, what do you
All right. What I do in a lot of the math games, I say that this is Hardsuit is the editor of the letters page this time, and they're giving advice on how to overclock PCs. And let's leave it at that. There is an end of session move which we need to cover. And in the end of session move, take a moment to reflect on the events of how the game went, what big changes happened, what seem to be on their way. Choose a teammate and ask them one of these questions. So we're going to go in character keeper order. This is B plot moves towards the bottom. So I'm going to ask I'm going to ask Ardsuit to ask one of the questions. So, how did my actions this session affect the community? How did I affect the team this section? How did I affect you this session? And you choose the player.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Firebrand. How did my oh, you know what? No, I'm gonna say Warlock. How did my actions affect you this session? Sorry, how did I affect you this session?
It's a bit of a tough one, given that we were essentially in our own little separate streams the whole thing.
So, I mean, the thing that kind of happened between panels was when I went, magic. I mean, very clearly, like I called you and said,
Exactly,
there's some kind of magic crap going on, and you're going to need to explain to me what it is because my instruments can't figure it out.
Yeah,
I'm getting the team together.
And is there maybe a suggestion, right, that if it wasn't magic, I wouldn't be on that call?
Perhaps that might be implied.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I think right when we see Warlock take out his phone, he is dialing the old-fashioned way, which you've got your, indistinguishable from magic technology that knows exactly who you're calling before I can, even bring up the contacts list. So, he was calling you and you were calling him. So it's, bound by this kind of sense of responsibility where magic is concerned. Even though maybe Hardsuit doesn't feel like he should really be part of the team.
And so then I think you shift one of my tracks by one.
So I think I'm going to push trust up by one.
Okay. There we go.
Okay. Freak. Choose someone in the team to ask that question of.
I think I'd like to insert a flashback panel, which is Hardsuit watching a surveillance drone input showing Freak emerging from the Duplatech offices complex. And I will ask, how did I affect the team this session, Hardsuit?
You're double dipping. You're moon like you may think that what you're doing is like they're helping you figure out your powers, but you are moonlighting, hanging out with them.
And what effect does that have on one of my tracks, if I've understood the move?
Yeah,
That's correct.
So the tracks are confidence, trust, and team, right?
Yes, confidence and trust.
Oh, confidence and trust.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that lowers trust by one.
I think you might be right.
Firebrand. Which question would you like to ask and to whom?
I think I'm going to ask Freak. Oops, I've missed the question. I've gone to the wrong tab. How did my actions this session affect the community?
Well, I think it had a positive effect because you saw justice done. And then I shift one of your tracks. And I think that is good for your confidence. So I think confidence goes up by one.
Nice. So Warlock.
Thank you.
Can I ask you, Warlock, to ask the final end of move question, please?
I think I'm going to ask Firebrand, how did my actions this session affect the community?
I think that you have again. I think this is a benefit to the community. You've been teaching Threshold how to better deal with some of the dangerous magical outbreaks that the city may face, which in the long term I think is going to be a good thing for the people of the city. And I think that is. I think that's probably confidence as well, because it was reliant on your powers and your ability to teach other people about them.
Okay, so up by one?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Now, what I should have done as well is Warlock, you should have had the opportunity, no roll for it, but I should have offered you Alex Trevelyan as a touchstone if you wanted them, as the threshold agent that you impressed. And Firebrand, I should have offered you 8th of the ring to you as a touchstone for getting them off a crime they definitely did commit. Okay, so you can add them as touchstones should you want to, and they become up to you if you accept them, but they become things that you can draw upon as touchstones later in the game. Okay, we won't do a stars and wishes tonight, but we will just sort of review how we felt about the character generation system and some of the starting moves. So how did you find, because everyone has played Masks and other PBTA games, how did you find the character generation system? Let's start with pros first. Anyone want to big something up that they liked?
I really like the touchstones. I think they're a really nice idea. They're a bit more flexible. They sort of feel like they fulfill a similar sort of role to those like relationship questions. They're obviously a bit broader, but yeah, just a bit more flexible and obviously tying into other stuff.
Cool. Any other pros, things that people liked?
I think I was too busy kind of doing it to think about it, if I'm honest, which probably means that it's reasonably intuitive.
Cool. If you have any thoughts, do chuck them into the Slack channel at a later point. Any cons? Anything that anyone didn't like about the character generation?
I am not quite sure I have my head wrapped around. I have for the architect, have 2 broad areas of expertise, then a specialization within the area of expertise, and then 2 invention themes, which are separate from my areas of expertise. And I'm not entirely sure how the Venn diagram of those is all supposed to overlap and work and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think we'll probably figure it out during play. But like I guess, because I felt a little frustrated that I want cybernetics, but that's not there. But I guess what I then do is I define that as a subset of biology, I guess, or something like that. And go from there. But
yeah, and I don't think it's gonna be an exhausted list. I think it's probably a suggested list. So if you want that, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll read. I'm gonna, obviously you've chosen your playbooks. I'll read through them in more depth for next time to get my head on all the bits as well. Because there were 10 playbooks. I can't manage all of them. These are the 4 I need to worry about. But yeah, that it did seem that this playbook took longer to put together than the others. And I think there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. How about the core moves? Because there's a chunk more than Masks, but can I get your thoughts on?
Just before you leave character gen, Dave, touchstones. I am struggling with some of the language. Define 6 touchstones, people, places, themes. with one from the following list, different from the rest, still human inside. Who else could do this? Isolated by my body.
I think if we went to Jen's personal private play test, there'd be more stuff that's probably missing that's not on the keeper. Because I read through that and I read it and I checked all the blog posts going like, no, I think this is it's sort of a theme, and I do agree that the themes could be better, or maybe there's a list that would come down from this in the end. I'm sort of seeing this maybe in the final or a next iteration. If you think about the sort of preset entanglements you have in the Hearts of Wulin, if it looked like that, it would help people have good things that they could pull upon pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I think next time I play that, I would sort of set some of those up as ideas for each playbook, so they could easily leap into play, right? If I have any concern, it's like the touchstones. To play them well, you've got to get your head around. You've got to know the genre. You fundamentally do it almost like a fate-like aspect, and that does take a bit of thinking and slowing things down. But generally, I thought the structure felt similar enough.
I think, on that, like I said, because I really like the touchstones, but it did feel like with the kind of backstory questions and the touchstones and the entanglements, it felt like there was a bit of duplication going on there.
Yeah.
I felt like, and especially, and that was the one like really like little niggly thing with mine was like that second entanglement of mine. I was like, I don't know what that means. That's who needs to take on additional responsibilities. It's like that means nothing to me as a hook for a relationship. It like it just doesn't. It tells me nothing. Basically, it just felt very, very flat. Very, I don't know. Just didn't hook me at all. That one. The other thing I just wanted to sort of say on playbooks in general, the one thing I kind of felt works. Obviously I'd been having a look through the playbooks and stuff in advance. I actually did a little while back as well. I like the playbooks in general. What I did feel with this that I didn't get so much with Masks was that in Masks you could obviously tell where there were like callbacks to specific comic characters and stuff like that, but the playbooks felt very archetypal. In this, I look at it and go, okay, that's Superman. That's it. It doesn't have quite the same level of that like archetypal level to it. It feels much more like here's how you play this specific character, rather than here's how you play a character who has to deal with these sorts of issues. And that's possibly something that with a bit more familiarity just with this game itself, I'll kind of start to get that. But that on like a first read through them, they felt a bit more focused on the practicalities rather than on the themes, if that makes sense. But yeah.
It's got what a lot of alphas going on, which is that like it's trying to do a bunch of things and it's got mechanics to do all of those things. And I think Jen hasn't hit that hard point where she goes, okay, I'm cutting this, this, and this, and we're paring it down to the thing that does exactly the thing we want it to do. So it's just bloated right now because lots of early designs are bloated because clearly she started with Masks and she's like, okay, what else do I need to, when there's probably a bunch of stuff that can get excised here and it'll play just as well and feel much more focused.
I would say like the thing that I didn't have here when I was casting to pick a playbook was, a brief summary of what this playbook is about, which I find really useful, not just as a player, but as an MC. What is this playbook about? What's the central conflict that I need to be driving towards? There's like there's a quote on the PDF for the playbook, right, which gives you kind of a flavor, but that's kind of the thing I would expect to see in there last, right? I think on those establishing questions, the relationships, there's two when you are picking both, right? And that kind of, if you have a well-established idea of your character, like David said, you're sometimes struggling to fit them in. I think a lot of ones say, here are 3 questions, pick 2 of them, right, which gives you a bit of leeway. I think like when I was doing my touchstones, I didn't come up with anything new. I just built off the background questions. And I think that's like crying out for something to be, something like when you've resolved one of these background questions or something like that, a work through mechanic that joins those 2 at the hip, because it's a lot of stuff to come up with and they're not connected.
And they're also, and they're also surprisingly low stakes for what's supposed to be great big cinematic superheroes. Like someone could benefit from some additional responsibilities. Is like barely even a masks thing, but like, if blank isn't shown the way, their hubris will jeopardize the world. Stuff like that. That like my questions would all be, like Marvel cinematic level, like these decisions and these things, like we all have the potential to do great, good, or terrible damage. And part of that is, keeping, and like the point of being on the team is keeping each other on track. And we all got to know why,
who isn't using their powers right?
Exactly. And you tie them in and stuff like, and maybe even like, who believes that if not kept in check, that freaks' powers represent a threat to all life, and then you take that and, whatever. And it's all because like I said, they feel like they should just be way bigger and establish the, that territory of.
Oh, everyone's frozen but me.